All right, so let's get into it. I kind of wanted to talk about, our first year podcasting. It has been very eventful, I would say. And I wanted to ask you, like, I wanted to kind of highlight some of the highs. Like, what do you think are some of your like most notable sort of, I don't know, I guess memories or things that have happened during the podcast? So now, whether that's an episode, a guest, or just like a topic,
I already know my
you
answer.
think?
So
Go.
it would be judging and then like being on the stage for Made Man Improv,
That was so
because
fun.
that would never have happened without the podcast. And it
It's
was
so
such an
true.
amazing experience. I don't know if I'd even heard of it. Like, this has gotten me like tapped so many different things, but that was, yeah, that's probably the highlight, because I know for sure that wouldn't have
Nice.
happened without the podcast.
Absolutely. I have to concur. Like, that has been one of the more fun things that I think we've experienced. Yeah, I think that's actually a really good one. I would say just like overall, just meeting a lot of really dope artists and content creators. Like, I truly do enjoy being in a space where I get to meet people who are interesting, who are doing things that they're passionate about, that they're interested in. I mean, I would, like you say, I mean, I wouldn't have met any of these people or been able to share their stories or even know who they were, probably, because I would have been in my bubble. I would say that's been one of my highlights, is like meeting the people. Definitely the Made Man show has been super fun, getting to know them and hanging out. Always so much love. So I love that. What would you say that you were the most proud of, like, so far in our first season of podcasting? Like, what would you
Probably
dust
people's
your shoulders off?
response. People's response, like when people talk about how much they enjoy the show or like it's helping them in some way, like that has been what I'm most proud of.
That is so crazy, right? Like,
It
that's so
is wild.
weird. It's like, you're saying,
I mean, not
"What?"
really. I mean, honestly, I wish I
It
could be. I know
is.
I'm like supposed to be modest or whatever, but I knew this was going to be amazing, like from the jump. Like, I'm not surprised that
Ah.
people enjoy it. Like, yeah, you should. Like, and I'm glad that something that I enjoy and that I think is dope, other people agree with me. But it's like I wouldn't even need you to. But it's not. It's nice. I kind
I mean,
of.
I wish I had shared the same optimism. I'm like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
like, who's listening? Who's gonna be," I mean, not like I
Oh,
think
and the
we're
other thing too,
terrible,
like
but
when we saw people in other countries, like I think that's one of my favorite things too, is that it's not just the United States, but in countries all over the world. Like when we get to see like the analytics,
Mhm.
getting to see who's listening and where, that's something like I'm really, really proud of. Cause yeah, we get to kind of represent where we're from. Like it feels good to put our voice out there. Like I'm a voice in this world and I deserve to be heard.
Well,
I got that from Debbie Allen.
agreed.
Thank you, girl.
Oh, Debbie, listen, she comes through with the things,
That was from
so
Different World. I just
I
assume
like
it
it.
came from her. It sounded like her. I don't know for sure that was her, but I felt like that was her.
We'll give it to her. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff she didn't get that
I'm
she
pretty
needed
sure
to
she
have,
directed
so
it. Yeah.
yeah, she's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess for me, I'm proud of the consistency. I think, that
Oh,
has to be one of the most challenging things to do when you're doing a podcast. Like, we talked to Fly, the creator, AKA Keith Baker, on our last episode. He had a podcast that I think he's gonna bring back or whatever, but, like, even when you're researching doing a podcast, like, I don't know if any of our listeners have ever been interested, like, understand, like, it's a commitment, like, it's a time commitment. It's not just like, "Oh, I'm record myself and uploading it." Like, you have to get people interested. You have to put yourself out there. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So,
in our case, we had
I,
to read a book sometimes.
I mean, okay, not this time, but yeah, a
But
lot of
more,
the
we've
time you
read
have to be
more books than
prepared.
we haven't. Yeah. Like we've
True.
read over, I mean, how many books? It's got to be over
Don't have
25 books.
me. Sure. It's been a lot. It's been a lot of books. It's
Right, and I
probably
feel
more
like
than
that's
that.
more than, like, let's just say the average person, like, American. How many books do you think they're really reading in a
Ooh,
year?
let me look it
Because
up
that
real
meant if we read 25 books in 1 year, that means we're reading 2 books a month pretty much.
I'm about to look that up. Yeah, I don't know. Americans read oh, hold up. Americans reading fewer books than in the past. That's not a You don't miss as many books. How many books does the average American read in a year? It says
I bet we're
the
beating
answer
it.
is not very many. You're not alone. According to Pew Research Center, about 25% of American adults say they haven't read a book in the last year in any form. So no print books, no ebooks, not even an audiobook in the car. And it seems that older generation is more affected than the younger one. 28% of adults over 50 say they haven't read a book in the past year, while only 20% of adults under 50 could say the same. So we're out here in these streets. So let's see, 75% of Americans say they have read a book within the past 12 months.
Why do you think people
One
don't like to
book.
read?
I think there's a lot of reasons. I think it's easy to be busy and blah, blah, blah. But also, it just seems boring. Like, I'm not going to even lie. Like, it just seems like I like to read books, but I understand how it seems boring too, though, because it's like I gotta focus. Like people don't like people's attention spans are short. Like I don't want to have to sit down here and think about stuff. I think for the most part, people don't like to think. Like people want to be.
Mm.
Honestly, this is why things are the way that they are, as far as I'm concerned, is because people. It's easier to be handed something than to have to like objectively form your own opinion about things. So when you're reading different narratives, it's like, oh God, I have to I don't know, like, it's work. I think because reading is work, and I don't think people
Oh,
wanna be involved in that all the time. They're already tired from doing other shit, and you don't necessarily feel the value in it. You don't understand how, like, it can enhance it can lower depression, it can help with anxiety, it can help you understand context, you can learn things. It can be relaxing. There's so many things that, like, reading can offer that, I don't think people are always tapped into. And I think it's honestly something too that um like reading was always something that was put in front of me though, as something important. So even when I didn't want to do it, I still did anyway. You know what I mean?
yeah, I did it to get that personal pan
So
pizza.
listen, it don't matter what it is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Shout out to the
um
Book It program, but
shout
I would
out
be
to the
very
Bookie
excited
program.
to
Okay.
get my hot, crispy
Yo,
pan pizza from Pizza Hut.
yeah, man.
That
It doesn't take
works.
much. It doesn't take much. So yeah, I don't
No.
think that there's a lot of incentive for it. Um and I mean, especially now, like I feel like, people would prefer to see pictures and be on the internet. Like you want to see videos, you want quick snippets. You don't want like I don't have to like what dialogue, all this. I have to like what like there's just a lot
Kids
of
really don't I noticed, like, my
things
daughter, she
happening.
doesn't even really like movies, like, that's too long form. Like, she's
Really?
used to TikTok, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, a lot of times a
Yeah.
movie, that's just too much concentration for too long.
Yeah. And so I think
And
that's a
but
lot of what it is now.
yeah, but, like, that's what it takes to learn a whole story, like, we like headlines, but it's like, "Oh, did you read the article?" It's like, "No."
No.
It's like, "Well,
No.
that's where the story is." Like, you
No,
can't
I
just
want the
put
cliff notes.
I agree with you. I feel like that's why we kinda are where we are now, where people just like
Mhm.
stuff real surface and they're not really interested in building a narrative, like,
No.
yeah, and realizing everyone has their own narrative, and stepping into someone else's helps you give you clarity on that, but whatever.
Absolutely. But once you've read a book or 2 that you've really enjoyed, you kind of, like, understand it more. It's just like anything, like, when you don't experience it firsthand, it's hard to really understand how it affects you really, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can always suppose how it is, but if you don't know, you don't know. So to
Yeah.
me, it's just like, it's just one of those things you kinda have to sort of you just gotta jump in there. Like, to me, you just gotta jump on in that thing.
Get to
Got to
work.
jump on in there and get to work and just, find stories that are interesting to you. Cause to me, like, even, like, I know people who tell me they don't like to read, but yet you're on World Star every day reading stuff, or you're on TMZ reading. Like,
Or
sometimes
shade
it's I
room.
mean, yeah, or Shade Room, like, maybe it is pop culture stuff. Maybe it is ratcheteer shit, but those are still narratives that are interesting to you, so that's still
Listen,
technically reading. So,
Confessions of a Video Vixen was fascinating. Not
yo, she's
especially
got her
well
own show
written.
now?
Oh, go off, Corinne. I hope she's,
Listen, no, 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 she's not even going by Corinne, it's like Elizabeth, overseen or something like that. She just rebranded herself. Like she's got a podcast and everything. We'll have to double back to that. But yeah, she's got a whole like I'll send it to
Shout
you.
out
But
to
yeah.
her.
Yeah, actually she was just recently on the podcast. Is it Good Moms Bad
Bad
Decisions
decision
or
choices. Yeah.
Bad Choices, something like that.
Yeah,
They're
good
cute.
moms, bad
But yeah,
choices.
yeah, Good Moms Bad Choices. She was just on there because I saw her picture and I'm like, that looks like Superhead. Is that her? You know what I mean? And when I looked into it, it was like, yeah. So I guess she was taking a break from being in the spotlight or whatever, and now she's back.
Okay.
And she's sort of rebranding herself. She's got a podcast, and I don't know. A matter of fact, Alex Media from WTF Media, from Horrible.
Weezy and
Yeah,
them.
yeah. Like I see, he'll be like on there with her. I don't know if he's working with her.